it is 6:03 p.m. Let's start off by doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So, Miss Kim Harper, do you mind doing roll call?
I do not. Let me see. Gus Satuna is absent.
Absolutely.
David Gittens,
Present.
Supervisor File,
Present.
Sam Morocco,
Here.
John Doolin,
Here.
Eric Yankee, Kim Harper is here, and Forrest Milzo. Absent.
And I think there's one more.
Like Tara
Tara.
Hanson.
I don't have that.
Yep. She's absent. But Tara Hanson. Yep.
So, moving on, the next agenda item is the approval of the minutes from January 15th, 2025. Need to make a motion to approve those minutes.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the DDA 20250101 as presented.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on, we don't have any presentations from the Carlisle group today, so nothing for E. Public comment? No? Okay. And so agenda item G,
Okay.
we have a review of the agenda.
So I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda so that we remove item I-2, Dixie Highway Gateway Project Proposal. Then we also add, as number 5, a topic of discussing the banners on Dixie Highway. Also adding, changing the bylaws for 6. And then I would like to add a new J, or slide it down, for a closed session to discuss the landscape architectural designs as presented to this date.
We'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it.
Okay.
Moving on, financial matters. I don't think we've got
We
anything.
gotta go back and prove the agenda overall now,
Oh,
as
Okay.
amended.
okay. All right. You need to make a motion to.
So I make a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Awesome. So we can skip H and we can move on to, which is financial matters, and move on to reports, resolutions, and recommendations. So election of officers, that's something that has been postponed since January. So the officer positions are chairman, vice chairman, secretary, and treasurer.
I'll make a motion that Dave Givens remains the chairman.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Vice chairman?
I'll make a motion that John Dolan be the vice chairman.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then for the secretary role is the person, their job duties are to take note of the minutes. And right now, that is Kim Harper.
I'll make a motion that Kim Harper remains secretary.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then the treasury is in charge of budgetary matters, and getting with me and other people in regards to what our budget's gonna be. And I think that's, Kendall was that, so it's vacant right now, so we need to elect somebody for that role.
I'd like to make a motion that Sam Morocco be the treasurer.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Awesome. So we removed item I-2. Next item is I3, which is subcommittee updates. So does anybody have any updates from the land? I guess in our closed session, we're going to talk about the landscape designs that we have currently. The only thing that I have to talk about, really, an update, is the banners, which we changed to line item 5. So any updates since we talked last about any other landscaping, or I know that we had the Carlisle group. They are doing a survey. They're also doing plans for that area, so that we can, once we approve landscaping, they can break ground and get to work over there. Other than that, I don't know that we have any other updates.
No, if you don't mind, I think that we're getting to the point where we're probably gonna wanna start some new subcommittees, because this is, you know, that we could work on more. Like, I'd like to get a subcommittee started. If we're gonna talk about subcommittees, you know, might as well do it now, because we only meet once in a while.
Right.
About the potential, the relocation of the sidewalks on Dixie Highway, and getting the paved curbs off the road, and creating green space in between the pavement and the road in those areas. It's been talked about in the township for a while. It's unsafe for pedestrians, and I think that that we should get a group working on that, because we have other professionals working on kind of wrapping up the details other than some of our design input. So as Gus and myself, and I think it was you who were on the park design thing, I think our duties are gonna be wrapping up, so I'd like to, you know, get the board's approval, to get some people working on that as, you know, because that's gonna take some time too.
Sure.
If,
So, question as far as the banners and all that, and I know it's another line item coming up. Is that something that is really working in conjunction with the sidewalk? Because that's gonna take up that real estate, right? Where you wanna put the banners?
no, they're gonna
It's
be
gonna go
on
to
the
light
light
posts.
posts.
On the light, the existing,
Yes,
okay.
so they would be on the main lighting. And the banner thing, I think their subgroup, I'm not on that, is also plays into bringing design ideas back for approval also. So between that, the bracketry, and the amount of them, if I'm not mistaken, because we have like over 200 lights, we're not gonna put up 200 flags. However that works, yeah, but there's a separate subcommittee that's working on that, right, Dave?
Essentially, I mean, it was part of the signs committee, so the sign for the park, the pocket park that we're doing, and then,
Okay.
and then the banners as well, was part of one subcommittee.
How did we land with the sign committees? I'm not privy to any information, I missed the last meeting, unfortunately.
We're still working on that, and part of that is reaching out to companies and then waiting on their response, and part of it is, you know, we probably could be reaching out to more companies for sign design and for the structure.
Are we still going off of that, the premise kind of the Colton
Yes.
idea? Okay, we just gotta refine the materials and dimensions and all that.
Right, right.
Do we need any help from outside the subcommittee for that? To dial those details in?
I think it's more about our subcommittees meeting more often, and probably it would be wise for us, we brought this up at supervisor meeting that we had, that it's probably, now that, you know, we're starting to get these projects going, that we should have these meetings, the DDA meetings, more frequently too, maybe once a month,
I
as
agree.
opposed to every other month. So, yeah, I mean, the sign really can't go in until we have the design for the park. So it's definitely something we want to have lined up, but it's not in urgent matter.
Are we creating like just a pad right now, and a holding pad, like the signs can, you know, 3 foot by 10 foot, or 3 by 20, or whatever, or?
That'll have to be incorporated in the landscape design, yes.
Brian, what are we limited to on that? Since,
On what?
on the footprint of the sign, are we, what are the
50
param,
square feet. per
but I
sign.
mean for the base?
Well, 6 feet in height total, so you can, you know, the sign, area is 50, but you can go up to 6 feet in height.
So
If you're gonna do the bell portion,
as a separate pediment, that could be looked at as a separate architectural feature from the sign, the bell, right?
yeah,
But if we were gonna do a granite base and offset letters or any kind of paneling or anything,
Yeah.
we'd wanna stick to like,
50 square feet.
50 square feet. So 5 by 10 for,
Mhm.
Excuse me, David?
Yes.
Do we still have a subcommittee on additional land purchases? Is there still a committee looking into that, or is there?
I don't think we dissolved that. That was essentially the subcommittee that Sam was leading that helped us to get this property, the Colton property. So, or the Corbin property. What, are you guys still looking at other lands to purchase for entryway?
not at this point.
Yeah.
We mean at the north end?
Yeah.
Well, that's outside our district, but the township itself has always actively looked at, whoever develops those parcels would be something that a piece of that or a sliver or something that the planning commission would probably want it, would be the ones who would negotiate for a, that's, I think, how we would obtain an entrance at the top, at the north end of Dixie, wouldn't you agree, Brian, is to try to get the petitioner that we work with at some point in that end of town to allot that little bit of space for us, or?
Yeah, if you're talking the Dixie Highway frontage, yeah, M15, it's really just acquiring an easement to place the sign. And that's a negotiation ultimately with the
Fine.
township board and our legal team.
And I don't know how important having a big monument, you know, next, you know, right at the edge of the village limit on M15 for that
Right.
quarter mile, is all that relevant?
No, I would think the north end of
Yeah.
Dixie.
So I think
Yeah.
our,
I would think.
on the north side, Foster Road is where our district
Right.
starts.
But I think our design, what I would see in a perfect world is whatever we design at this end, because we're gonna try to be in compliance of the ordinance as much as possible, would be then from a person on the planning commission, and somebody in the northern quarter, doesn't necessarily mean the first parcel or the second parcel, but one of the parcels that have been undeveloped yet, which there's a lot, we would pursue as one of the, if they were doing a PUD, it would be totally appropriate for us to say that would be a community amenity, to, you know, as a portion to qualifier. You know, we'll have opportunities to ask for that parcel.
What about the east side? Coming into the township from the east?
Over
side?
by Andersonville Road, that's also
Or-
in the corridor, so I think that would be a more modest sign, but certainly identifying it would not be a bad idea, in my opinion, you
And we
know?
only need easements for that, too, also. We could put an easement-type situation there also. It didn't need to be big, like you said.
Yeah, if we were gonna come up with a design for that thing, I think we could work with the landowners that are already there, you know,
So that's what, Alex's and
Buckshot's.
Buckshot, whoever owns
That
that strip.
that whole strip mall, I think Shell had built it, I don't know who owns it now, but even there, and then you get into the mini storage, and then, you know, there's a few opportunities along there that's undeveloped. There's a parcel that hasn't been developed yet, that's just this side of the gymnasium, the Stars and Stripes, who I know the owner on that property, who was bouncing around the idea of possibly doing something there. So we could take advantage of another new development, that we could try to facilitate, you know, an entranceway into, so. But that would be something we could work on as a sign design of what would be a little bit more modest, possibly, sign
Mhm.
coming in from that way. You know, just in the back of everybody's mind.
What's that?
Areas we want to put the monuments or markers.
That's 3.
Probably 3. I don't know that we want one coming in from M15.
I don't think we
There's
would.
so much
no.
real estate.
And M15, we could do like an actual welcome to Independence sign, you know, on metal or something that's just a sign that doesn't necessarily would have to be I mean, they have those ones that say thanks for coming or see you later or adios or whatever, but, or nothing.
I mean,
You're
what's-
already in the township
Yeah.
before
I believe
you
you'd
get to
lost.
that. You're like in the
Yeah.
middle of the township, so I'd say 3,
Yeah.
right? 2 big ones on Dixie and maybe a little bit scaled down one on White Lake
White
Road.
Lake Road, yeah. Yeah, because, again,
Nothing on M15.
no.
No, and the last year when we were talking about signs, there was a different issue because it was outside our district that the township board had discussed putting up signs out on Clarkston Road and over on Clintonville, you know, like.
Too far out.
Like, I'm just saying regular, like normal
Yeah.
city signs have that, hey, you've crossed into a new town, you know, not what we're talking about, you know, not monuments.
Yeah, but it's outside the DDA, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, so,
Sure. So, as far as creating a new subcommittee for the sidewalks, is there anything else that we should incorporate into the sidewalks?
Well, I think what's gonna happen to the sidewalks is the sidewalk is the first step to the green belt, and then what we do in the green belt, up Dixie, if we're going to pursue street trees and other things, you know, to pick up where other things are missing. Chuck and I had talked about that casually, but I think that just the tackling of the paved curbs and trying to get the sidewalks out and the retention that might be needed because there's some topography issues is gonna be a good amount of things to mess with for the subcommittee and for that subcommittee, let's say. There'll be a lot of challenges involved.
Ms. Harper?
Are you thinking, if I follow your thought process of the sidewalks, that they would be in different locations than they are now, or widening them, or?
Need to be relocated away from the
Relocated.
road. Yeah.
And that would not be easements?
It would all be in the road right away, I think, because Dixie's road right away is so large. But there's, you know, some of them were pulled right up to the curb because the land dropped off, and some were paved because they just thought it was that people were gonna live, like, some of the buildings, the parking lots go up to the curb almost. So, and they didn't want people walking through parking lots, so they thought, hey, let's put pavers and pave all you know, the rest of it to the road. That's so dangerous for the people to be that close to traffic going 50, and all the broken concrete and rubble and debris that's on them that never gets cleaned because it's not a sidewalk is dangerous to walk there. So they walk in the parking lot anyway. So those are some spots where I'd like to try to get the road commissioner will also put greenbelt back in front of those buildings. And we do have a section that's dangerous, but it's not all in the district, is the paved shoulder north of White Lake Road, you know, is right on the shoulder where you gotta walk along the edge of the road. So it's hit and miss. It's not like we're
Yeah,
gonna move
right.
all the sidewalks back, but
Exactly.
there's some, definitely at the bottom of Waterford Hill, there's some areas to get to this part that could be made
Yeah.
safer, you know, and pulled away from the road. And we could add some green belt, you know, to it.
Just going from 15 down to Andersonville, there's quite a few spots where the sidewalk is right next to it. Perfect example, right off the top would be Bowman, which they use those parking lots for, you know, and to move that would be, I don't know how we would do that, because you would be taking away parking then, and that's their critical parking, so.
Well,
I think that would be a very difficult part of it, so I don't know that we'd get it through all of them, but if we could fix as many, certainly that, you know, upgrade as many as we could. It's a lot of buying, and some, I mean, I certain areas I just don't see happening, but.
well, yeah, and you don't wanna jam them up either,
Right.
but they're in the
Yeah.
road right away also, so there's a lot of conflicting. That doesn't mean that they have more right to be in the road right away than anyone else does, but I don't wanna go after Bowman. But there's a lot of normal ones that are not, you know, that, a lot of cleanup that can be done. There's the whole, so another issue that we should be looking at down the road, because, you know, would be how do you cross the road there? Because it's so dangerous, there's no way to cross the
Right.
street, and, you know, and you got to, but that's in the DDA's, for us to put in a crosswalk, for us to, you know, try to get funding for one, for us to get design on one, that's all in the parameters of what we're doing here with the DDA, so that's a whole nother issue.
Would not MDOT would not MDOT dictate that intersection as far as what would be allowed to do in there?
Well,
Or
if
would
there's
they
a
not
need and we
necessarily?
can ask for it and we, yeah, that it's not,
We
Yeah.
definitely have to work with them.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Even
That's
with
how
the
they-
banners, we have to work with them.
Yeah, but all of that is
Everything's on Dixie.
infrastructure, widening the road, putting in decel lanes, that's all within our parameters of the DDA, doing all that heavy infrastructure work. That's how this whole CIA got all this. The traffic light right here at the corner, that was a CIA involvement, wasn't it, Brian? So, there's really not any limits to what we can try to do.
Mhm.
You can do major infrastructure for sure with what we got going.
Okay. So,
So
any other?
that's the only committee, I'd like to participate in that, but I just say that that's, you know, whether we do a committee or not, I'd like to work with Dave McKee on that and see,
Yeah,
try to get some mapping done, you know?
yeah, definitely. So it sounds like we're gonna minimize or get rid of the subcommittee for the, purchasing of land, so, you know, those people that are on that subcommittee can roll over to the sidewalk committee if they wanna be a part of it.
Sure.
Who was on that?
I think it was
You-
tied to
you,
me and
Gus.
Gus and you, right?
I don't know who the third was.
You're on the park
Yeah.
design committee, right? So you'd roll over with Gus, myself, and John would be, if you want us to just add that to what we're doing, I think we should,
Yeah,
to get going on it.
Okay.
agree. All right, so, moving on, we are going to talk about the banners. So the banners we've talked about for some time now. I've got some information from Banner Company. The cost essentially is $75 per banner, and that is for a 2 by 3 foot sign, so it's 2 feet wide, 3 feet tall. They sell brackets, but we talked to Dave McKee, Sam and I, and he made it sound like if we were to get a bundle package, then we would pay $100 per bracket, whereas the banner company wants to charge $150. So that'd be some, major savings. Hi, Tara. So the idea is that we would have 200 banners. We'd have 50 banners for each season. And what the cost works out to be is $15,000 for the banners. And then we've got, for the brackets, if they're $100, roughly it'd be $5,500. Okay, so in total it'd be $20,500 for all of that. And one thing that I did learn is that Dave McKee looked into it, and because MDOT is in charge of Dixie, we need their permission, but they don't really have any restrictions on things like events or seasonal things. They just don't want us promoting certain businesses.
The minimum height as to where, do they have a minimum height guide to where to place them?
That's a good question. These would be sitting up high?
High,
Yeah,
but there might be a restriction on lamp posts, I
That's-
don't know.
that's a good question. I didn't even think about that.
Did you say 75 banners?
50 banners.
50 banners.
So 200 in total, but 50 of each.
Yeah, season
Season.
or whatever, okay,
Yep.
okay, cool.
And so just up and down Dixie Highway, there's 245 light poles. And if you do the math, it's essentially a banner for every 5 light posts. I asked for how many light posts were on White Lake Road, but that's because that's the biggest second stretch. Really into M15, there might be 2 signs. Into maybe there might be 2 signs. But I think that's a good number personally, just the 50 flat. Yes.
Are you doing like 5 on this side and then going over here and then 5, like, are we crossing the street back and forth in a zigzag pattern?
I think that's a wise idea.
I mean, I think that's, yeah, however it mathematically spreads out like that, I think it's gonna make a big difference.
Right.
Yes.
Who's gonna design the banners?
That's a great, I had it here, what the company name was. Kendall had recommended them, because they're the same company that does, here it is. It's the same company that does, it's Signs and More, the same company that does the Village. So when you see the banners in the Village, that's the company that she uses, that's the company she recommended. I reached out to another company, I think Banners and Co., but this is a local business, they're from Troy, so it just seemed,
We're buying a stock banner, right? That's the most cost effective, the way it's something that's already been designed. Do they have multiple designs that
Yeah.
you're gonna bring forward to pick from?
Yep.
Will they have our logo on it?
They could do that. Independence Township, Winter Snowflake, or,
Oh, I was just thinking like just the bell maybe on the bottom or on
Yeah.
the top.
oh, that'd be a good idea. But,
Find out what the cost of that, because I think we're talking about buying they're already pre-designed multicolor like ones.
But
What are
you
the,
have so much space at the bottom to put whatever you wanted in there, so you
Oh, they
could
do
put
it
that.
left.
You could put, I don't know, Happy Holidays and then the bell after that, or something like that. We could incorporate that as.
Is
in
the plan
within
to
the space.
change them seasonally?
yeah,
yes.
every four seasons.
So we're gonna pay to change them every quarter, essentially?
Our DPW would be the ones that change them,
Right.
like they do for the Village.
Mhm.
They put up their lights and do all that.
Well, they don't have as many.
50.
50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the big time thing is gonna be putting up the brackets, but
Isn't
switching out
the,
the sign shouldn't be too difficult.
Hello, how are
Hey,
you?
guys.
well, I also didn't get the 6 o'clock memo, so. Isn't the idea to get the logo to be on everything? So wouldn't it make more sense to put the logo and keep it up year round rather than change it quarterly? If that's what we're trying to brand-wise do?
I don't know. I'm not trying to brand the township personally, but some people want to.
I mean, we're gonna have entryway signs
Yeah.
that are gonna brand that district. I can look into, if there's additional cost to have Independence Township on each banner. I'm sure it's gonna be more, but.
I think we talked,
If it's nice,
when
we
we
got the money.
reviewed that last time,
Mhm.
when you had brought it, we had reviewed, talked about having the name across the top and then something saying at the bottom, which, like I said, would have enough space to put the bell, on the corner after that, or up above after we say Independence Township. I
Mhm.
think there is space where you can design what you want within each 4 season of flags, so.
Yeah, we don't have to buy something off the shelf. We can have them made for us.
But
Mhm.
it's much more cost effective this way, and the.
Maybe.
And, from what I've seen also, it's just the seasonal thing in the middle. You got a lot of design you can do in this area. It's not just one line, so maybe, I
Right.
think you'll be
Who's on that
happy with it.
committee?
That's me, Mrs. Harper, and who's our other? I don't know that they fell. I think, well,
Here now.
Ian was at our last meeting,
Yeah.
actually, so.
When do you think you're gonna bring some designs forward?
I can have them at the next meeting easily. So I just wanted to bring it up because we talked about it for such a long time. I want to actually
Yeah.
have some numbers for us to look at and see if it makes financial sense for us to do it.
Well, we always talked about it being the first thing that's gonna be that we could do fast to make it obvious, that we do.
Right.
So, so as soon as we get them up, the better. With summer coming, I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, we didn't have quantities or how many light posts and all that, so now that we have that, we can
Right.
move forward with.
If
getting
it's only
light
20
posts.
grand, and then I would like to suggest that we put at least some sort of a contingency in there for replacement. So what I wouldn't want, I'd like to, if we're gonna buy 50, we should buy 60, so we got 10 backups, or we should plan to be able to repair
Mhm.
or replace one, you know what I mean?
So it's 40.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's 4 seasons, 4 different ones, 10 each. so
Right, that's
40.
why it would maybe be more cost effective to have one design, so if you wanna keep 10 on backup, then you have 10 and you're just replacing what is getting done. I don't know what was discussed in previous meetings, this is only my 2nd meeting, so I'm not, if you
Right.
guys have already beat this to death, I get it,
Yeah.
like,
So you're recommending instead of 4 seasons, have one sign?
I just, I mean, that's what I would do. It seems like a lot of manpower for DPW to go out and switch those every, Dixie Highway is busy, it's busy
How long does
and,
it actually take somebody to change one?
I
Well,
have
what
no
would,
idea.
what would you,
You gotta do the math, right? How long does it actually take somebody to get it, how far up in the yard?
doesn't matter, they're in a bucket truck.
Oh, then you can
Yeah.
back it up pretty
Well, let's not
quick.
kid ourselves, DPW is gonna bill the DDA for their time.
Understandable,
Yeah.
which is, but.
Every
if you-
quarter, though.
If you're trying to make an impression and make the district look nice and do something like the towns up north do, to make it, I mean, I'm not in favor of wasting a penny to put up a Independence Township flag up. That, to me, does not do anything, in my opinion, that's my opinion, but I think that if you, the seasonal thing, everything's gonna cost money, that's why we got a DDA. That's why we got, the county's paying for half of it. I always think that way, it softens up the beat, that the county's paying for half of it, But if we're trying to promote that feel that this is something different, we're in a different town, things, I think when you go through the village, it's really cool, because they got the, even everything from the snowflake lights on some of the poles, I mean, it means that the community is active and doing things, so.
You're just broadening the net.
Yeah, and that's, we're trying to attract investment in this corridor, and by doing that with the entranceway, the pocket park, the flags, the green belt, hopefully people will see that it's not just an old US rundown highway that you just ran 10 miles up. We're different, so.
Yeah, I don't really care if we change it out every quarter. I would just like to have the logo, the belt on all of them.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And they
and
can
keep
s-
it clean, keep it simple, just the bell. We don't have to do the whole Independence Township thing, because we got the monument signs that kind of say that and make that association.
You're saying that's all that's on the whole flag?
No, I'm just saying,
Okay.
if you're gonna do the seasonal, just make
Right,
sure
right.
that in the same place on all the flags, the
Yeah, that
bell's
it's
there.
on there.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's 30 grand for the things, it's a, that's the investment. I'm just saying we should have a couple backup ones, and, give it a shot. In the grand scheme of the millions of dollars we're gonna invest, I'd rather start out bold than, modestly, and 50 is pretty modest. It's not gonna seem overwhelming.
No, I don't think so
With,
either.
245 light poles and we're only putting them on, 20%, it's not gonna seem too
No, it's what, a
crazy,
mile and a half?
you
Is it a
know?
mile? Mile and a half?
And they're only 2x3.
Yeah, they're 2x3s, are like you said, they're
But
gonna
without
slow.
any ideas for design, it's kinda hard to
I mean, if they're all
kinda see
white.
the wow factor.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
David, is that the next step? We vote to approve them to give us a design?
I don't know that we need to even vote for that. I'm going to bring back, I think that's a good idea. I didn't think about that, having the extra, just in case one gets ripped or whatever. I feel like, we need some backups. And then, it sounded like, from my discussion with them, I had a phone conversation, a lot of email exchanges, but it sounded like they have a set number of winter ones, a set number of summer ones. You can do flowers, you can do fireworks. So it's really what we want to pick from, exactly. But adding the logo is something I'll have to have a discussion with, so I'm not sure that we need to vote on anything. I might be wrong, but I don't think so.
You just need to commit to getting it done.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
being filmed.
It's on TV. So,
Okay.
Well, I'm glad we're this far along, now you got the brackets figured out, the amount, everything's now it's designed, so that's great.
right.
So we just need to then select a subcommittee date to review that stuff and come up with what we want to present.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Okay. So, next item of business is I-6, which is changing the bylaws from 7 members to 5 total members.
No.
Sorry, 9 to 7. Okay, let me
Keep a
change
couple
that.
of us off right
All
now.
right, I was gonna say, am I doing that right? Changing the bylaws of 9 members to 7 members. So how many do we have? 1, 2, 3.
7.
It's up here.
Well, these guys show up consistently.
That's
That's kind of
the point.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
So I would like to have a little bit of a conversation around that.
Sure.
So if we change it from 9 to 7, are we saying that takes, the quorum's gonna be based off the 7, but what about the members? I mean, are we kicking somebody off? If we're going
No,
from 9 to
this is,
7?
this is the
We
total.
appointed someone for Forest.
Yeah.
The chamber, right,
Chamber
the
is
chamber
one,
fell off.
missing.
So that would be 8. So are we taking somebody moving on?
Yankee
So-
resigned, right?
So some of these members, they have expired. So like Forrest Mills, though, his term has
Yeah.
expired. So what you're looking at is who's on the board right now. Because
Eric, Yankee.
Yankees expired at the end of last year.
Okay.
And then, who else was on here?
Forrest.
Nate Neiman resigned.
And Neiman resigned.
Yeah.
And the chamber wasn't a,
They have a new young lady who's in there, who I cannot remember her name right now, but she might wanna fill, I don't know. But when Kendall left, I'm assuming it just wasn't filled.
And it
That's
wasn't a requirement, you know, when we started this, DDA, we really tried to find people on every, you know, Nate came because he represented White Lake Road. Kendall was here because, the realtor across the street that was also with us, moved on, and we didn't have anyone on M15. So, I'm not saying don't have the girl from the chamber on there, I'm just saying we're not mandated to have someone from the chamber. It just made sense at the time to try to spread everybody out, that we had a representative every quarter mile, you know, or something.
Is it my understanding that you want to reduce the number of members because we're having difficulty getting the current members active? Right?
Yeah, I
But is
think
it easier to get a
I don't
quorum?
think we've ever gotten all 9 people here
No.
since we started this.
If we leave it at 9, then we need 5?
yeah.
And if we leave it the way it is now, we only need 4.
That's
No,
If we
we're
make-
taking it down. So we need 5 right now to have a quorum. We're talking about bringing it down to 7, so we only need 4.
Yeah, I thought that's what I said.
Use it back the other way.
Okay, so,
So, but I guess ultimately I look at it is it of value to, regardless of any of us, is it of value to have the chamber as one of the seats?
I can see a value in that.
Is it more valuable than, so it would be of value to have them on the board, so then one of us would have to step down
I don't
If
think,
you change it
from 9 to
from
7.
9 to 7.
Yeah.
I would,
If we
let me
change.
say, in my opinion, I think that it's valuable to have someone from the chamber put input into you know, what we're doing on the district, whether or not they need to be on our board or not, because the girl that they hired, I don't know if she's from here or familiar with the township, and I know that, and you're more involved than me over there, I think, aren't you? But,
She came from a business in Independence Township, I don't know where she lives.
and I'm not told that it's, that she has that the plan for her is to stay there.
No, I don't know what the plans are.
Well, I mean, but that
Could
initially.
she serve on a subcommittee? Is that what you're asking? Does it make sense to put her on the board or to serve on a
Yeah,
subcommittee?
so I guess, you know, does it make sense to have her as a voting member? In which case, then one of us would have to step down. We can still have her on the committee, but she would be a non-voting member then.
Could you just make it 8 on the board?
You
Can't.
can't, you don't number.
No, but
Oh,
I would,
yeah, I got it.
I mean, I think that we have 7 people who are passionate about trying to do something here, so I'd rather leave it at 9 and find another person if we're mandating someone from the chamber to be on here than I would making one of us leave, unless somebody doesn't want to be involved anymore.
Is anybody here a member of the chamber?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, well, then-
Chuck, he is, 4 of us,
Then why- okay.
the majority of us are, yeah.
Okay, so I guess then the chamber does have a voice here, so maybe we don't need to make a spot for the president of the chamber.
We're pretty active in
Do you have an issue with the
Chamber.
quorum?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Just knock it down to 7, that
Yeah.
keeps you in our association.
So that's fine. I'm good now. I didn't realize all of you guys were on the chamber.
Knock it down to 7.
Well, I feel left out.
You probably are considered on the chamber, you just don't know it yet.
That could be, that could
You
be.
go to the ribbon cuttings, don't you?
Yeah, I do go to.
You're in the
See,
chamber.
you're in.
I'm in.
Welcome aboard.
All right, then I'm good with the idea of going from 9 to 7. I think the easier you can get a quorum, the better. So I'll make a motion that we take the voting members from 9 to 7.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Motion
7 members it is. Motion carried. All right, so is this the point where we should do the closed session?
Yeah.
Because we're done with I.
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session to discuss the landscape proposals for the Township Entranceway Park.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, closed session.
Smack it, so, yep.
All right, so we are back to the DDA meeting.
You have to turn
Give
this
it
back
time.
on.
Oh, there it
We're
is.
back.
8 o'clock.
That's the TV board.
The time is, let's see that,
7:50.
7:59, Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. The only thing we have left to bring up was public comment, and we don't have anybody here. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Sec,
Should we, real quick, just about the time, changing it to 6?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Going forward?
I'll make a motion
Second.
that we make our meetings at 6 PM from now on, and that we advise the planning director to schedule additional meetings once a month
Once a month.
until,
You
we-
want to go to once a month?
yeah. Let's pick a, what Wednesday is
It
it?
was third Wednesday, I believe, of the month.
Yeah,
I
yep.
second it.
Is the third Wednesday what?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Adjourn.
No.